Alright, this is the ship, the Royal Majesty ship Lusitania, a passenger ocean liner, in 1915. Now, like I said, the Russian Revolution was in 1917, and Russia withdrew from the war in 1917. And actually, they even signed a treaty with the Germans, called the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, and gave much territory to the Germans. So Russia was out of the war by 1917. And I think 1917 is a essential year in the war because a giant fades away, Russia withdraws, and a giant enters. And we'll talk about the other giant entering in this presentation. So this is the Lusitania. It was a passenger ocean liner, and it was sunk in 1915. It sunk in 1915. But there's a difference between sinking and being sunk. And see, the Lusitania was being sunk. It was sunk. It was sunk by German submarines called U-boats, which is short for the Unterseeboot, which is German for boat that goes under the sea, which is a submarine. And the German submarines came in 1915 and sunk the Lusitania. Now, the Lusitania was not a military ship. It was not a warship, and it was not carrying cargo. That would be like guns. It was not carrying any gun cargo, and it was a passenger boat. And so the Lusitania, there was a great outrage because the Lusitania was a passenger boat. However, it was sunk by military submarines in 1915. And if you remember, 1915 is when the Russians, the French, the Great British, the Italians are just joining the war. But now, there were other people involved in the Lusitania accident, which really wasn't an accident. The Lusitania incident. There were Americans. Over 100 Americans died in the sinking of the Lusitania. And today we're going to talk about the second giant moving into the war. America enters World War I. Aside from the Lusitania incident in 1915, all throughout the war, American ships were being blown up and sunk by German U-boats. And the Americans did not like this at all. In fact, America, however, tried to do things peaceably. In 1916 presidential elections, Woodrow Wilson was re-elected on the campaign slogan, "He kept us out of war," meaning the 1914 to 1916 portion of the war. So he was re-elected. Woodrow Wilson was re-elected in 1916, however, and he tried to peaceably bring together both the Entente and the Central Powers together in peace. And he had his 14 points. He had this idea of a League of Nations. He had this peace without loss thing, and it just wasn't happening. And then there was the incidents with the Germans, and finally, in 1917, America, here Woodrow Wilson is in Congress. Oops, sorry. Woodrow Wilson is in Congress. That's not Woodrow Wilson down there, but Woodrow Wilson's up here. Woodrow Wilson is in Congress with his declaration of war against Germany speech in 1917. And America did declare war on Germany and began mobilizing its forces. Now, America had not had a full-scale war like this since since the turn of the century, 1900. So this has been more than 15 years since the Americans had ever had to do any fighting. Now, there's obviously been militia attacks, small wars, small battles, but nothing like World War I. And so America had to mobilize its army and train its soldiers. And so by the time, so it was autumn and winter 1917 by the time American troops got over to France. Now, that was just about the same time as the Russian Revolution, and the Russians were withdrawing. So, even though the Russians were withdrawing and there could be more concentration, German concentration on the Western Front, there were now reinforcements. And, man, the Germans really... I think when the Germans saw American troops coming in like this, American troops in France, shown here, when they saw American troops coming in the hundreds of thousands, I think they just wanted to give up, because it had the war in the Western Front had been going on for years and years and years, and it was a war of stalemate. And now here come the Americans, and I think the Germans just wanted to give up and just get out of it. And so the Germans did. Throughout the spring of 1918, it's what is called the German Spring Offensives, because the Germans just decided, all right, we're just going to go all out. This is the last stand. So they made offensive after offensive after offensive. It was kind of like the early version of Blitzkrieg. If you've studied World War II, you know about Blitzkrieg and the Battle of the Bulge. It was very much like the Battle of the Bulge. In World War II, in the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler decided, all right, I'm going to lose anyway. I might as well just push. This is the last stand. This is the last attack. And that was just kind of like it was, like in the Western Front, with the German spring offensives in the spring of 1918. And we'll look and we'll see in the next few videos, we'll see how the Central Powers are just falling apart.